council's in an executive session now. They'll be out then shortly.
Sorry we had an executive session. Sorry we were late. We didn't mean to be late. Madam President, glad to have you in City Hall. My computer's just restarting. Waiting for Roger and solicitors. Ken was with us in the executive session. He'll be calling in. He should be calling in now. Call the stated session, City Council order. Please rise for the invocation, followed by the pledge of flag. There he is.
Kenny?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
As we gather here this evening to make the decisions to move our city forward, let us thank the honorees tonight, the awarded, that are receiving awards. They've made a significant financial contribution to the quality of life in our city, and we thank them for that. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Ettinger?
Here.
Mr. Milan?
Here.
Mr. O'Connell?
Here.
Dr. Ruggles?
Here.
Mrs. Sultana? Here. And Mayor Pianto?
Here. Approval of the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Ettinger?
I abstain. The agenda, I'm sorry. Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Action on our minutes of our meeting is September 13th.
I'll move the minutes.
Moved.
Second.
There's a second. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Roll call.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Now I'll abstain.
Okay.
At this time, we have the award presentation. I just want to come down here because people in the audience who are watching from home won't hear me if I don't use this microphone.
Mayor, take the one from in front of Lewis. That might work for now. You might be able to carry it over there.
The one what?
The microphone from in front of Mr.
Oh, okay.
Campus.
Our first recipient is Franco Talata.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Frank is no stranger to our awards. He won the award for the renovation he did to Parkview Event Center, which was formerly the YR Club across from the Eddyside Beach. But this building was a wreck. I happen to have been in it before it was renovated and completely redone. A new post and rail fence around it, and today it's added complement, and he added parking to the YR Club, which is even better. All right, Franco.
Wow.
You're gonna need
Thank
a trophy
you. You're the
case.
best.
You're gonna have to build
Thank
a trophy
you. Can I
case.
take a picture with you, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
Here we go, sir. You're the best mayor in the world. Thank you.
I paid him $20.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank
all of
you. Thank you. This is 204 North 13th Street. Mike and his wife is here. How are you? How you doing? We're glad to have both of them here because they did a wonderful job on which was, you might have remembered, some of you older folks may have remembered Frank and Margaret Pasquistillo. They owned that building, but being up in age, they sort of let it go. And Mike came in and did a great job on it. It looks beautiful. It's one of the more beautiful homes in the West Ward. There's probably the most beautiful home in the West Ward. So, Mike, I'd like to present this to you and your team. to make sure that everyone knows that Mike is with invests all of our pension money. We're doing really well. Thanks to Mike. Thank you. This house is very near and dear to me. Are the Nielsen's here? Oh, there they are, back there. Gil and Martine are my neighbors. They live across the street. This was, some of you may have had Mr. Lucy in school. He was a shop teacher. Mr. Lucy had 13 children, and they lived in this house. And Mrs. Lucy died when she was in maybe mid-90s. And obviously the house went into disrepair, and Gil and his wife Martine bought it. And most recently, they not only put concrete siding on it, but they also did the porch addition, which was really nice. So we want to thank them for doing that. I have that for you also for your mom. Okay.
Great mayor, great neighbor.
Thank you.
99 when she got passed, yeah. I remember going to her 90th birthday. Oh, that's right, they came up.
They were all from Europe.
Yeah. Well, she has a daughter that lives in Saudi Arabia, and she went in Egypt. I'm sorry, Egypt. And she was riding a camel when she was 91 years old. Peter and Karen Cooper bought a wonderful home, probably one of the most loveliest homes on College Hill, and I had the pleasure of going through it a couple months ago. It's absolutely amazing. Where's Paul? I saw Paul here. Paul says he spent 2 years of his life in that house, and it's really a beautiful home. It's and I like the fact that they took care of getting ready for their old age when they get to be as old as I am, and they put an elevator in. So we're really fortunate, and I love the TV room.
Sal, I just want to thank you, City Council, your administration, for all the support we had. Jeff and Ollie from the Archive Shop, Easton helped us, Paul, his family, and so we're really blessed for all you've done for the city. So
Oh, great.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Paul.
Peter. The next two awards are going to go to Lafayette College. And I could have given 2 more awards to them, but I don't want to let the Madam President do it. This is the Reinig Rope Company. For those of you that don't know, Mr. Reinig lived on College Hill. Clay Mittman lives there today, but he had an electric train. Now, my parents were friends with the Prendergast who lived across the street, and I remember always wanting to go up there because he would take us around the property on his train. They had a lot of patents out of this building, and it was falling in disrepair. The college bought it when no one else would buy it, and have done a remarkable job on renovating it. And the other one that they did, and it's at the end, so I'll have to, is the Portlock Black Cultural Center, which is not only restored beautifully, but it was moved as to make way for the Residence Hall #1. It was moved from, what street was that, March? Reader. No.
Martney.
March.
Oh, yeah, Clinton Terrace. Yeah, and they moved it over and put the porch on. It didn't have a porch like that. Some people thought it was a Mickler home. William Mickler was a real well-known architect and did a lot of the big homes on College Hill. He designed them, but they made it better than the original, no doubt about it. And right up the street, the 600 block, closer to where I had my business, was Dr. Billy Meyer's home, and the next door, which were 2 really large stone homes. They did a remarkable job on both of them. They could have gotten the award for that, but because they moved this building and because of the Residence Hall and Reinig Rope, which was a historic, beautiful, it was restored historically, that's why we gave them those 2 awards, but we could have given them 4. So, Madam President Hurd, if you want to come up. Reinig Rope made the rope that was used to build the Panama Canal.
I'm doing well. How are you?
Haven't seen you in a while.
Good to see you.
Hey, my age is good to be seen.
It's we got to get picture here. And while I've got you, and while we've got all these amazing fellow just an invitation, you'll be there tomorrow.
Yes.
At 4:30 tomorrow, we will be dedicating the new plaza, and you now see our Civil War soldier is staring at our other Civil War soldier here in Center Square, and so we invite you all at 4:30 tomorrow to dedicate our new plaza and our new restored steps and escarpment steps. So if you want to join us on the college tomorrow at 4:30 up on the plaza,
I will
please
be
join
there.
us. So.
Everybody thinks that's the Marquis de Lafayette. It's not. Hagai's not here. He didn't think he could make it back in town by then, but Hagai Feiner did own Networks. What's it called? Access Networks. Thank you, Mark. Access Networks on Ferry Street. He restored that, and he ended up restoring. This is the old Napa Auto Parts store, which was I hate to say it, but was very blighted. And he restored it, and unfortunately, from the outside, it doesn't look, but the inside is magnificent. And it's now a shared space. He also rented the building next door to it. But this is 915 Northampton Street. You can see how the ugly blue that was there. But a guy. This is Wilkes-Barre and Charles Street. It is the home of Brother Bright's Soul Food Store many, many years ago. And then it was vacant for about 30 years. And you guys did a great job. I mean, I go by it every day because my dad lives at that end of Charles Street, and I live at this end of Charles Street. So I pass it by every day. And what is it, 9 apartments? 8. And it's just absolutely gorgeous with off-street parking in the back, and really looks great. So we're going to give this to the people from County Rental Service. How you been? All right. So we'll give this to the guy who's going to come in and meet with me when he gets back in town. I want to thank all of you. I mean, I give these out every year for the last couple of years, but in addition to this, there's a letter that goes out to about 100 residents who really restored their homes, because when they usually get letters from the city of Easton, it's a code violation.
Yes.
So this is something positive, and they really enjoy it. And we've been very fortunate. A lot of people are putting money, a lot of sweat equity back into their homes. So we really appreciate all that you did. You are the major ones, but even the little ones. I can show you. We just started a program called the Residential Facade Program. We have a house up on Lafayette Street. The paint was peeling and everything else, and they applied for a facade grant. They got a facade grant, and today it's a beautiful home. So we're looking forward to that. Have a good day.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, my computer won't start. At this point in our meeting, we're at present public comment on agenda items only. You will have an opportunity at the end of the meeting for non-agenda items or anything dealing with the city of Easton. Is there anyone who wants to address an agenda item? Moving on to the consent agenda, Madam Clerk.
Okay, under the consent agenda, we had bill number 30 that was introduced by Dr. Ruggles, which would amend chapter 560 of the vehicle and traffic, and that would be approving a load and unload zone on South 11th Street. We also have a resolution approving a certificate of appropriateness for 40 North 3rd Street, a certificate of appropriateness for 52 South 5th Street, a certificate of appropriateness for 100-116 Northampton Street, and a certificate of appropriateness for 353, 359 Northampton, and also another certificate of appropriateness for 325, 327 Northampton Street. We also have a resolution authorizing the application for the U.S. Department of Transportation's Reconnecting Community and Neighborhoods Grant in the amount of $1,222,956. And that's for the consent agenda.
Move
Move the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded on the agenda. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
And Mayor Panto?
Aye. There's no reports received by council, so we'll move right on to committee reports. Vice Mayor Brown, Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. I had several things in the queue today. That's starting with, see here, Bill number 32, amending the 2023 capital fund budget. Bill 33 amended the sewage and fund budget. I have the wastewater. I'm sorry. Let's see here. I have the sewer fund, bill number 33, and I have two resolutions for MMO and the PMR pension fund. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Moving on to Economic Development Committee, Councilmember O'Connell.
Mayor, I do not have any report. Thank you.
Councilmember Sultana, the Planning and Codes Committee.
I have no report, Mayor.
Public Safety Committee, Councilman Ruggles.
Just wanted to report to council that we got notification that we got the money that was promised to us. I think it was 2 years ago almost, but we now have the money for our LiDAR system. So that will be something that we're going to have to start planning and determining how to best use it. But it's $350,000 approximately that came in.
That's great.
And Mark's sitting there smiling. You like big checks.
We got the big check 2 years ago. We finally got the little check.
Got
the little
big
check,
yeah.
the money.
The little check is the one we want. Yeah. But anyway, that's all I have.
Great. Public Works Committee, Councilmember Ettinger.
I have no report tonight, Mayor. I do, however, have several resolutions I'm going to be moving under new business.
Okay. Administration Committee, Councilmember Milan.
I have no report.
Report of City Solicitor Joel Shear.
Yes, prior to this meeting, we did have an executive session essentially to discuss what's on this agenda is Bill number 34, proposed lease. And in that regard, I understand that, anticipate that this will be introduced later in this meeting, that we had one exhibit, which we refer to as Exhibit D, that had certain maintenance requirements. And in that regard, item 1B, where it said with new gates near the location of Lock Tender House, that gates should have been bridge. I apologize for that. That was what we had discussed in meetings with the potential lessee, the bridge. Not the gates with the Mitra gates at Abbott Street. This second section was supposed to be dealing with the bridge to the DNL Trail. And because I was doing my own editing after our last Wednesday meeting, I'm just not used to typing the correct words, so I apologize. It should be bridge, so I suggest that when it's introduced, we make that one change, and I'll make that change in my word processor too.
And that bridge is on the plan. I mean, it's something that has to be replaced or repaired right now.
Joel, you'll send me the corrected then?
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
Mayor's report. Under my report, I have a couple of items. Speaking of money, we did get notice that we got a $1 million urban forestry grant. Our guys from the Easton Environmental Advisory Council are here, and we really appreciate that as we try to restore our urban forests. We've planted probably almost 5,000 trees in the last 15 years, and we got a lot more to go. The nice thing about this grant is that we can probably use some money not only for an apprentice, but for someone to maintain our own street trees. Right now, they're not very popular among some of the population because they have to maintain them. They claim they rip up their sidewalks, etc. So if we take over trimming those trees, it'd be a lot better. Wood Avenue, just to give you a city council an update, Lewis and I were out there today. we've been getting a lot of complaints about parking, but in talking to Dave Hopkins, he resolved that today with the contractors. The medians that will be on Wood Avenue will not eliminate as many parking spaces we initially planned because they're going to be cut in half. They're going to cut them down to 30 to 15 to 20 feet instead of 35 to 40 feet. The idea is to slow down the traffic. It is a very, very quick moving highway. It's concrete right now, but that's the reason for it. These traffic calming things that we're doing are not overly popular, but they're very much needed for people as more and more people are riding bicycles and walking. Also, this weekend we have our pop-up festival on Saturday at Nevin Park, where we'll be giving away free pizza. Matter of fact, Frank Tolato's family will be doing that. We also have a live concert by Don Cunningham and Associates, and we have a clown magician who will be there entertaining the kids. Then on Sunday, in the same neighborhood, is Porch Fest on College Hill, which is becoming a very, very popular walking around the neighborhood and just enjoying the various bands. I forget how many bands they have. They have like 32 or 35. Oh, they have at least that many. Yeah, bands. So we're looking at that. For those of that have been complaining about the circle traffic, we did get PennDOT to agree. We're going to be changing the lighting of the traffic lights to allow for the queuing that's taking place on the circle right now to get off the circle, so that instead of all four sides coming in, only two at a time will come in. We don't have their final approval. We have a 30-day trial, and we're assuming that trial is going to work better than what the current situation is. The current situation, when somebody's coming into the circle, if there's four cars already in the queue, by the time they get through, it's a red light already. So it's backing up during peak hours. Let everybody know, the council members know, that the PLM, Pennsylvania League of Municipalities Conference, is right here in Bethlehem. So we're looking forward to that. And next Thursday, we will be hosting a delegation from Little Rock, Arkansas. 37 people are coming up from Little Rock, Arkansas, to see what's going on in the three cities that make up the Lehigh Valley, because they hear so much about how we're doing such great things. If you haven't been to the Siegel Museum lately, Forged by Fire is now curated and on display. It's a wonderful history of firefighting, not only in Easton, but in all of Northampton County. They're now done curating that show, so the curator is supposed to start on our lobby. We're looking to make our lobby a little bit more inviting than it's like a cavern. I've been wanting to do this since we moved in here back in 2011 or whatever it was. And the idea there is that the first show exhibit would be about the destruction of this whole section of this town during urban renewal. So they will be doing that, and then after that it'll be an Easton exhibit, just an exhibit about Easton. So we won't be changing it every 6 months.
In our lobby, Mayor?
Mm-hmm.
City Hall's lobby?
City Hall lobby.
Thank you.
The 2024 budget will be announced. I will be making that presentation next Monday at noon. So watch for all the great things that are going to happen there. And our parking garage is finally really starting to look good. It's really coming down quickly. The first 2 weeks were very, very slow, as they did most of the stuff on the interior. Now they're tearing it down. And on Facebook and social media, I was getting a lot of complaints about, oh, why don't you just put up the walkways like they do in New York? Well, the other day I was at 3rd and Ferry having lunch and watching them take down the building, and they're taking down slabs of concrete. And I mean, I saw a huge slab fall right down on the sidewalk. I said, thank God that the sidewalk is closed. So that somebody would have killed somebody. But they're also recycling all the materials that they can. All the metal, rebar and steel beams are being recycled. So we're looking forward to that coming down sometime. They'll be done sometime around the end of November.
First time I've seen the lights over
Yeah, I
on
know.
4th Street Garage.
I know you can actually, skyline is changing. And that's the end of my report. So we'll move on to Mr. Campos, City Administrator's report.
Two quick items. Number one, the administration, in our IT department specifically, overhauled the website. So if you haven't seen it, the new website's up. Ms. Altana, you had authored a resolution to have a celebrations calendar. So if you look at the calendar on the front page of the landing page, you'll see that the three particular celebrations, Muslim celebrations, were placed in the calendar. And then as well as we looked at some of the other major celebrations and placed them in there as well. So if you have any comments, please, you can send them to me and I'll forward them as appropriate. The second thing is, last week I was in Harrisburg, as I had mentioned before, to first have a meeting under the Governor's Advisory Commission on Latino Affairs, and then secondly to kick off the Hispanic Heritage Month celebrations at the Capitol. I was able to read a proclamation on behalf of the governor. So that's my report, Mayor.
And I did forget to mention that Boys and Girls Club and the City of Easton, we have a meeting coming up early next week with the Housing Authority of the City of Easton. So we'll keep City Council apprised of what's going on there. As we meet to also discuss my lobbying efforts for the Choice Neighborhoods grant, sort of holding that in abeyance that if they don't come to terms with the Boys and Girls Club, we're not going to support it. But it's a great opportunity for the city to get another $40 million or $50 million from the Federal Housing and Urban Development Department to redo the West Ward public housing projects like we did over at Nesson Heights. So we're looking forward to that. My bigger concern is not the Choice Neighborhoods grant as much as we need it. The Housing Authority needs to do a better job of managing their properties. I'm not happy that Nesson Heights, which has been a model, exactly, thank you, Dr. Ruggles, has been a model for public housing units in the United States, just got rid of their outside managing company, Penrose. The group that built that was also managing it for 5 years and renewed it for another 5 years. And they just got rid of it. They're going to take it over themselves. I am concerned about that. The Housing Authority has not been very good at enforcing their leases. They need to keep their leases, the people who are on that lease in that building, in that residence, not grandchildren who are involved in drug dealing and violence and everything else. And we don't want to see Nesson Heights go back to what it was like when it was Delaware Terrace. And we certainly don't want to see that happen in any of the new ones over here. So with that, I will end my conversation, Madam Clerk, go on right on to new business.
We have bill number 31 being introduced by Mr. O'Connell, which would amend Chapter 54, the Ethics Code of the City of Easton.
So introduced.
We have bill number 32 being introduced by Mr. Brown, which would amend the 2023 revolving capital fund budget. Mr. Brown?
So introduced.
Thank you. We have bill number 33 being introduced also by Mr. Brown, which would amend the 2023 sewer fund budget.
So introduced.
Bill number 34 that would be introduced by Mayor Panto, approving a lease agreement with New England Hydropower Company.
So introduced.
Now we have a resolution being introduced by Mr. O'Connell, which the city would be expressing its commitment to the mill at Easton Phase 3 project in the city of Easton and submitting the application for equipment to support the project and designating officials to execute the associated grant.
I don't think we've announced it yet, but we have Lehigh Valley Health Partners coming into the south side with what is the size of it, like 12,000 square feet medical facility. So we're really excited about that. And this, what we also would do is go after a $500,000 grant from the state to help them underwrite some of the equipment that they have to get. And there are millions of dollars of equipment. So we're
Where's that
anxious.
located on Southside, Mayor?
Excuse me?
Where's that going to be located?
It's going to be at the mill at Easton, the Phase 2, the commercial section.
Oh, the Middle East. Okay. Okay, I didn't hear what you said there. Okay. Gotcha.
We still have to move
Mayor, is that Phase 3?
Phase 2.
Right, Rita?
Sorry. Yes, you do.
That resolution is moved.
So I have to change that because I have
Second.
Phase 3.
Phase 2, yeah.
Mr. Brown?
Yes. Aye.
Oh, you did. Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
And Mayor Panto?
Aye.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Milan, which would approve an agreement with All City Management Services for the crossing guard services.
Moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Brown for the allocating funds for the it's our 2024 minimum municipal obligation for the city managed pension funds.
So introduced.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
We have a resolution being introduced also by Mr. Brown. It's for the 2024 minimum municipal obligations for the PMRS managed pension fund.
So introduced.
Moved, is there a second?
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
And Mr. Milan?
Aye.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Ettinger approving an agreement with OSD Design and Planning, and it's for a design proposal for landscape and architectural design for North Sickgrave Street.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Roll call.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
And Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Ettinger, which would approve a 3-year contract with Whitetail Disposal, and that's for the collection and transportation of the city's solid waste and recyclable materials.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
And Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
We have a resolution also being introduced by Mr. Ettinger, which would approve an agreement between the City of Easton and Flash Parking, and that would be to install new parking equipment in the South 3rd Street Intermodal Garage.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, Mr. Brown seconded. Discussion. This will give us a ticket in and a ticket out. We will no longer have the license plate having to park forward so that you see the back of the license. You won't get a $25 fine. It's for old people like me who don't understand that when you leave, you pay and you punch in how much time you went on your kiosk. Now you'll get a ticket in and a ticket out. Still be easy being able to do the credit card, but we're just anxious. Do we have it in the 4th Street garage? It'll be $200,000. In my opinion, it'll be well spent. Roll call.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
And Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Ettinger approving the purchase of a new backhoe for, I believe it's the city's sewer plant, correct? Utility crew, I apologize.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
And Mayor Panto?
Aye.
We have a resolution also being introduced by Mr. Ettinger approving a contract between the City of Easton and Blair Contracting, and it's for the replacement of the roof at Fire Central.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye.
We have a resolution also being introduced by Mr. Ettinger approving a contract between the City of Easton and HT Lyons, and that's for the replacement of the rooftop heating and cooling units also at Fire Central.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
And Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
We have a resolution also being introduced by Mr. Ettinger, which would approve a proposal with
In situ form.
There you go, Technologies, and it's for our sewer rehabilitation project, and the linings are going to happen on Canal Street, 6th Street, and Pearl Street.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. David, how many miles of lining have we done so far in the last, let's say, 10 years? I know in situ form has been our company of record, but I know we every year we do it.
Yeah, I actually don't have that number. It all depends on pipe diameter and need. And so what we're doing now with the ARPA funds, you know, the utility crews going out, they're using closed circuit camera to record, you know, the condition of the line, and where it's kind of a worst to first approach. So we're going to be coming back to city council as we package these. You know, we're kind of developing a plan on, you know, what you guys have approved tonight. Those pipes are in really terrible condition, and then we're just gonna start hitting the priorities. And so we'll be back probably 3 or 4 more times with combinations of both sanitary and storm that really need work. The other thing that we really need to do is it's in design right now, but the 300 block of Ferry Street, that's a real bottleneck. We have I think a 12 3/8 going into a 12 on that street, and that's the prison line, so it flows pretty heavy, and when we do get heavy rains, you know, all the manholes charge, and we do have a lot of problems. So that'll help alleviate that, and also you know, prepare us for the marquee coming online. So that'll be another project that I'm hoping to finish design in the fall and get it going in the spring.
Thank you. Can I just ask you a quick question? I'm not real familiar with the technology, but I know some of our larger lines are not circular.
Correct.
Is this technology able to work in those situations?
It can, but it's more expensive because the annular space that's left, they have to grout.
Oh, you have to come back in and regrout that.
Right. So
Okay.
so the technology is basically they have this and it's proprietary to them, but it's a liner.
Yeah.
They put it in inside out, and then they.
Okay. I had a case up in Canada that they did that, and yeah, they had to come back in and grout behind
Right.
the wall that they put in.
On those types of pipes, we can spin cast now, where they pull a sled that spins the
Right. Mhm.
cementitious material.
I just
Okay.
didn't know what we do in those particular. Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk. On the in situ form.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
And Mr. Milan?
Aye.
We also have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Ettinger, which would approve a proposal with Alloy 5 Architecture, and that's to perform an architectural review of the Southside Fire Station.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Roll call.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
And Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
At this point in the meeting, we have public comment on any item that's concerning the city of Easton. Art.
Mayor, you mentioned $1 million grant for the trees. I've been cutting off the side limbs that are growing out on trees downtown because no one takes care of that stuff. So what is the plan? Does anyone have a plan about that?
Well, we just got the grant this week, so we'll put together the plan.
Okay.
But if you ever see trees that need to be trimmed, just let us know.
I trim them
I'm
myself.
glad you
I got
do.
my own clippers. I trim them myself. I don't need to. Okay, question number 2. Has the parking committee done anything yet?
Yes, the parking summit met and putting together some recommendations. In my budget address on Monday, I'll address that. We have one more meeting coming up before we make a final
Beautiful.
commitment to city or recommendation to city council.
Great. You'll be able to have a lot of people very happy about it.
Mayor,
Anyone else?
are we going to live stream?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mazin's gonna take care of live streaming the mayor's budget address.
So, I'm here because I'm a resident of Wood Avenue, and I know Sal mentioned that he was out there.
Man, I'm sorry, could I have your name and address,
Sorry,
please?
Barbara Holsizer,
Can you spell your last name
Hulsizer,
and your address, please?
1025 Wood Avenue.
Thank you.
I'm in with our row home. It's 3 row homes together, and they're over 120 years old. And we have representation, owners of all 3 here tonight. We're concerned because in that section, we lose all of the parking. And I was wondering if any of the discussions you had earlier today resulted in any of us getting any parking back there whatsoever. I do have a picture if you'd like to.
Okay, I think there was a misunderstanding that we're eliminating parking on Wood Avenue. Well, they're putting a median there. The medians are only they're gonna be shortened to 20 feet rather than 35 to 40, as I said before. Dave, you can. I don't know about the 10th Street. I was at 10th Street. I was at 10th through 12th.
Yeah, it's right where you come up Spring Garden. And then
the
it's,
triangle.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then there's one stationary, one single house, and then the 3 row homes together.
Yes.
And then there's the Warren Street, the alley.
Right.
Gotta put the fuzzy thing back on the microphone. So we don't have loud police sounds. I was actually up on your block earlier today. So what we did was we moved the median back, and so you'll get. I don't want to say. I think it's 2 or 3 spaces back there. The reason the way the medians were designed. I mean, technically you're not supposed to park, 30 feet from the corner. It just becomes a normal thing over the years when people get used to parking like that. When we did our public meetings for this, and I actually think it was prior to COVID now.
Yeah, it was.
Because we started this project in 2015, and it took us 8 years to get through the federal process and taking it back because it used to be a state road. The state wouldn't make improvements to it. We got a lot of calls from residents because cars were hitting the joints. It was loud. The speeds were up around 50 miles an hour. So we got a ton of feedback that if we could slow the cars down, improve pedestrian safety, and those were the real top concerns. And so the reason for the medians was to kind of compress the lanes down in a steady fashion, like a boulevard. Try and slow the traffic down from the thinner lanes. And on-street parking is actually a good thing, and we're not trying to take it away. We're actually trying to promote it because if you're a driver now, you kind of have to squeeze between the parked cars and the island, and that's the idea, to slow it down. The other idea is to try and open up the corners a little bit. So you'll see there's new ADA ramps going on each corner for accessibility. If you're a pedestrian trying to get over there, especially near the school, if the car is parked right up to the corner, it's really difficult to see them. So that's kind of the other reason for it. But I do hear your concern because I think you spoke to one of our employees earlier today as well. He relayed that to me. We both went out and took some measurements. So I think it's gonna help because we still, even if we shorten it, we still get the benefit of the calming, but I think it'll help you with the parking. So we'll do whatever we can.
And my other concern was my mother just turned 95, and I have to bring her out and down and get her in the car. I have to be able to pull over there. If there's not even a parking space there, then I'm going to be blocking traffic because it's my only way to get her access to my car and when I bring her home. So that's why I was also concerned about having some spots there to be able to pull over and park there.
I would tell you this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the easiest thing to do is I met several of the residents and business owner out there today, and I think our goal is to slow down the traffic and improve the roadway, but we're certainly not to make it parking. My son lived on 12th and Wood, so he parked on Wood Avenue. So I know what it's like out there.
Oh, and I'm all for slowing down the traffic because
Yeah.
it's like you take your life in your hands when they zip up there, even to open your car door to get
know.
out. So, all right. Well, thank you for the
Thank you,
opportunity.
Barbara. Anyone else?
Name and address, please.
All right, I'm Terry Nibbs, KNIBBS. I'm 1209 Spring Garden Street. I'm here for 1029.
1209?
1209 Spring Garden.
Thank you.
I'm here for 1229 because it's my parents' home. There's a lot of things I want to say, but sitting here, I'm so goddamn nervous.
You don't have to be nervous. Just talk like you're talking to us in a restaurant.
I can talk one-on-one and complain.
Just make believe it's one-on-one.
Okay. Okay. I actually wrote things down so I wouldn't forget everything. I'm sorry to hold you up.
No, you're not. You don't have a gun.
Okay.
I hope.
I'm concerned, like, if my parents go to sell their home and there's no parking. So that's going to be a hard sell. And we're all talking about the medium, I'm calling it medium, the island, where it stands now. Even if you cut it back a little, the people coming up Wood will really be driving where you used to park. You know, there's no way a parked car and a car can fit through there. My son actually lives at my parents' house. He uses North Warren Park, because he never has parking. So he parks there. So he goes in and out a lot. So that medium goes past, the, island, goes past Warren. So he's not going to be able to come out like that anymore and go in. Well, he can go in, depends which way he comes. But it is an inconvenience for a lot of people. Now, I have to thank Frank Pittibone, because I messaged him last night, and he directed me to Mr. Hammerstone, who did meet us today. And he was very helpful, but he said that they were going to add parking across the street, because I know Melinda needs parking for her business, and now that one took away a lot for her. So, but they said they could park across the street. Well, if you park across 10 cars across the street, there's no payment. So anybody in the passenger side, it's going to be a hazard parking there, because now you're coming up the hill and right there. So somebody here mentioned tonight that people should park across the street around the corner. Like Barb, she has her mom. She's 95. How can she walk her across?
Yeah, our concern was all those cars that were used to park on Wood Avenue. We can't let them park on Spring Garden and Bushkill and Jackson, because that's going to create parking
For
issues
them.
up there.
Yeah, it's going to be a snowball effect. Yeah. But I just didn't know if there was some other thing you could do to slow people down in that particular area, because it is a hardship. And honest, I felt like maybe common courtesy, maybe letters should have went out to homeowners, residents, let them know.
It was we did it, but it was a long time ago when we first started designing that project.
But then they could have came and voiced their concern, and maybe people could have worked something different out a little bit. I hate to be a negative Nelly like I am, but it is hard for people to get around there. And that particular section I'm talking about.
Terry, speak into the microphone, will you please?
I'm sorry.
That's
That
okay.
particular section I'm talking about, so you're coming up Wood, and then that's there. So now you're driving where parking was. So you're driving. So then you got to go like this a little bit to go around maybe 4 or 5 cars that are still allowed there. Then you got to go back this way.
That's why hopefully that'll slow them down.
Well, yeah.
Because they're gonna have pinch points. You're right.
But I'm afraid those cars are going to get hit. Sideswipe, whatever. You're going to have more of a problem in that area for that reason. I was hoping there would be a better solution than those.
Terry, what's the address of your mom's house?
1029 Wood. They're all
1029 Wood.
1029 is my parents.
Okay.
Then
That's what I
I'm
know.
sorry.
All right. Thank you.
They live in the middle, and then Barb's at the end.
That's fine.
And I have a lot of pictures. Barb showed pictures of what I'm talking about. And I said, it seems like, okay, Wood Street is wide. So you get up to where I'm talking about, it seems to narrow there. So you have those median, and then the cars. They're going to be, if you have parking on this side, parking on this side, those cars are going to be, too close to each other, I think. I don't know. I went down today, took a lot of pictures, and said my concerns, and I know he's listening in because he told me Mr. Hammerstone was polite and friendly, and did answer our questions there and did get a hold of yous to go out. And I appreciate that. But still, even if you cut them back a little, they're still
The
going.
last thing we want to do is spend $1.8 million and have people upset.
Well, there's probably a lot of people, like, Barbara didn't know till last night what was going on, you know, and I told her we went to school together, and that's why we're here, you know. So I don't know what else to say because they're there, but I don't know if there's anything you can do to make it better for people, you know.
We'll certainly stay on top of it. We will
And
stay
I
on top
don't
of it.
think they're going to slow down.
Well,
I lived there 47 years. You know.
I know it's a speedway. There's no
Yeah.
doubt about that.
And it's heavily traveled.
It is.
And it has to be. It has to be. Hey, my kids went across the street to the bus stop down there. Hold my breath, you know? So, okay. I know I forgot a lot, but
That's okay. Thank you.
most of it-
Thank you.
You know my phone number. Just call me.
I know your phone number.
It's in the book. It's online. Just call. Anyone else like to address City Council?
Just more about Christy O'Brien, 1027 Wood Avenue.
I'm sorry, what? 1027?
Yeah, 1027 Wood Avenue and Michael Jones.
So I'm more solution-based suggestions. Maybe instead of, because I know for us, parking is very difficult there. And especially if there's a game at Cottingham, there is no parking there. If it snows, even less. So by removing those spaces, it makes it just even more difficult for us. So I just want to offer some possible suggestions. There is a triangle island down by 10th Street. If we could move it down there, no one parks.
10th and 12th.
10th.
There's one on 12th Street.
Yeah, correct.
Yes. So there's a triangle island. If we move the whole thing down by there, nobody parks by that island. That would be completely empty space that you could utilize. That's not going to affect the residents. Another suggestion would be speed bumps.
They won't allow it.
Can't
PennDOT
do it.
doesn't allow it.
No? Okay.
Believe me, every street in Easton would have a speed bump if I could.
And
Okay.
PennDOT doesn't allow it.
All right. But the other suggestion is moving it down so it's away from the residences. Do you have anything to say?
No, I mean, I just wanted to voice difficulty for me personally because I'm a bartender and I get home late at night and I already have difficulty finding places to park. This is just going to compound that even further. So, but yeah, I definitely agree that if it could be moved down to where the triangles are, that would, install these things that you want to help slow down traffic and it wouldn't actually be a hindrance on parking.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Sophia Sealy, and my address is 1450 Lehigh.
Could you spell your last name, please?
Sealy.
Thank you.
And I have a couple questions actually. Around this time last year, I had actually, since I bought my house, I've been having plumbing issues. Last year, I spent about over $5,000 to replace a portion of the main sewer line, and my family had to stay at a hotel for a little over a week. This year, I started having plumbing issues again, and we stopped using our water, but then I realized as they were trying to fix the issue that my neighbor's sewer line is tied into mine. And so as they're trying to fix the issue, sewer water still coming into my house and flooding my basement. So I contacted my neighbor. It was like a whole ordeal with trying to get her to help as far as getting it fixed, just because her stuff is coming into my house and flooding our basement. So I just wanted to know if there is anything in writing that I can, so with the shared sewer lines, how is that supposed to be handled? And is there anything in?
When your house was sold or the next door neighbor was sold, it should have been addressed.
Yeah.
It's part of the buyer notification, shared sewer lines.
And I went over all of my documents. There was nothing about that. I did a record search. There's nothing in any of the deeds for my house or her house. And so there was no notification about it. And even when Agentis was out last year, they claimed that she was not tied in, but I had her flush the toilet. I recorded the video. Her mom even came over to let her know that like your house is flushing into my house. And so I just wanted to know, like, if it's not anything in writing, like, how would I go about getting that so that it's not a.
I'll
like,
check with
fight?
him tomorrow, Dave. Do you know of anything in writing about shared lines, sewer lines?
So it's called yoking, and generally out in that area, that when they built the homes, they yoked them together, and then there was one branch lateral that goes to the main. The one thing I'm curious about, though, is I don't know why your neighbor's flow would be going into your house.
Yeah.
So they're yoked together, but they should be at a pitch where they go down in, because the sewer line on the road is deep.
Yeah.
So for her water to be going into your house, either the main line has to be plugged.
Yeah.
But there's an elevation issue there.
Yeah.
And
that's what I was going to ask you. Where's the sewage coming up?
Like, where am I?
In your basement, where's the sewage coming up? Is it coming up out of a toilet, a sink, a floor drain? What?
So during different times, it'll be different issues. Like, maybe a couple months ago, it was my tub, then sometimes it's a toilet. And it's a two-family house, so
yeah. I mean, I'm agreeing. This is something I know a little bit about. There has to be something in the line that's blocking the flow, because you have a gradient there. I mean, if it's coming up out of the toilet, then that's up above your floor level, and your pipe's down here, and it's got to back up to get to that point. So that there's, I would think that there's something in the line.
Okay.
Yeah, in the main line going out to the sanitary sewer.
Well, everything's fine now. Like, everything's fine now, but I have had issues with like the different plumbing stuff before. I don't know if you want to explain it, but
I can explain it. Last year, the trap broke.
Please speak into the microphone.
Last year, the trap broke. That's the main going out of the house. So everything backs up into our house, because it's going to go to like the nearest opening, which is our washer and dryer. So it comes out our washer flow. Going over her house, she doesn't have anything on, like no drain, no nothing on her side. It's just one pipe coming through that goes through our wall that comes down our house. So it comes out, connects, and then it goes down to the main. So when it backed up, the water's coming out in our house. It will never go out in her house because she doesn't have nothing for it to come out of. You know what I mean?
No, I understand.
Yeah, and when the pipe broke this time, it broke in the main, but the pipe broke. Nothing got out, it just broke. So that could be from like heavy use from hers and ours, you know what I mean? Contributing, because the pipes are old. So when the pipe cracks, you know what I mean? That's from her and us. Yes. That was all new last year. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you'd have to fill the entire pipeline to get back up to where it's coming out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wouldn't be just like a flushing of a toilet someplace that would cause that to happen. It'd have to be kind of a sustained flow to get that volume of water into the pipe. And if you have that much change in elevation that you're dealing with, that should drive a substantial flow.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be something in the line going out that is not right. I don't know. I can't say if it's a plug or whatever, but it sounds like what's happening is there's a blockage there, and when the water's coming from their house, it's just filling it up, and you're getting the residue.
Yeah.
So it can't be. I mean, it sounds unusual that would happen if the line was open.
Yeah.
The camera.
Yeah.
I did speak with Russell from Public Works, and they're supposed to come out at 3 tomorrow as well. So I just wanted to know about like with like if if the main line is failing and she's refusing to help, like how do I, like, is there anything documentation wise, or how do I go about getting that? So I'm not like, I don't want to go back and forth. I don't want it to be an issue. It's just kind of like, this is a shared issue. Like, how do we handle it? So that's kind of like, or like, who do I go to for help in that situation, if you know?
Well, the only thing, I don't know how we can force her to put in a sewer line, a direct sewer line. We don't have anything to do that. Well, we do in the fire notification. Yeah.
Okay. And then my other question was that I was approved for the facade program back in like around this time last year, but I haven't been able to get in touch with anybody about an update.
I'll have John give you a call, or Sean.
Okay. Thank you.
1974 Mercer Way, Tony Claypatch. There's definitely been a lot of negative commentary about Wood Avenue tonight. I just wanted to commend the city for actually taking pedestrian safety seriously. Traffic islands do help to slow down cars. They're recommended by PennDOT on appropriate roads, just like Wood Avenue. They're recommended by the Department of Transportation and the federal government. So frankly, this is just the start, Wood Avenue. It should be a lot better, honestly.
Actually, the start was Larry Holmes Drive.
Well, Larry Holmes Drive could be better too. Like the man that just died there, was it a couple months ago, crossing the street there? So Larry Holmes Drive would be nice if that's next. But these are serious issues that it's nice to see the city actually taking action on this, especially with Cattell Street now as well, up there on the hill. Pedestrian safety, I just walked over there to West Ward Market today, so I know exactly what everyone's talking about with Wood Avenue over there. And I've crossed that many times over this past year. This is going to seriously help just crossing the street. I just want to put my input in there because I don't want this to be so negative. I want city council to hear that there are people that actually that are in favor of this. They're just not able to make it to the meeting tonight.
We appreciate your comments. Thanks, We believe in road diets.
Yes.
Now we got to convince the suburbs of that. Because when I was a developer out there, they wanted to make them wider and wider. I mean, 50-foot wide roads in a subdivision? Why?
Lafayette Street.
Yeah, Lafayette Street, yeah. That's the next one.
Had an accident there this morning.
Yep. Anyone else like to address city council?
Mayor, I have a comment. Actually, I wanted to say during the committee report, but I want to make a recommendation in regard to the press box that is being built in the Highfield. I would like to make a recommendation for the press box to be named in honor of Scott Ransom.
That's already in the works.
Perfect, thank you.
Is this the press box at Heil?
Yeah, Heil.
Yep.
And it's for Scott Ransom?
Yes.
Well, it'll be on the agenda probably when the press box is done.
Okay.
Right before we dedicate it, it'll be on the agenda. City council has to approve it. Okay, we'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move. Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Pianta?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
This is the most exciting thing I did today.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
And Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Good night.
They said, Ken, you were a pain in the back, but I didn't agree.
That's not true. It's a B-U-T-T. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good.